The morning shift began like any other on Unity Station. The massive structure floated in neutral space, a symbol of cooperation between 47 different species. Inside the Grand Council chambers, representatives gathered in their usual spots. Some attended through holographic projections, their forms flickering slightly as quantum signals traveled across the galaxy. Others sat physically present, their varied anatomies accommodated by specialized seating designed for everything from the gelatinous vortex to the crystalline Shen. Ambassador Zixthar stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing expressively as he discussed trade agreements. The Vrelny diplomat had a reputation for lengthy speeches, and today was no exception. He droned on about mineral rights in the Kess Nebula, while several representatives quietly worked on their data tablets, only half listening. In the monitoring station 3 levels below, junior analyst Kreoth sat surrounded by holographic displays. Her job was simple but important: track all communication traffic across the galactic network and flag any unusual patterns. The young Threen had held this position for only 6 months, and she took her duties seriously, even when they seemed boring. That morning, something caught her attention. A small red indicator appeared on one of her screens, then another. Then 12 more. Within minutes, hundreds of red dots spread across her display like a disease. Each one represented a communication hub that had gone silent. Kreoth felt her secondary heart skip a beat. She expanded the view, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The pattern became clear. Every single red indicator corresponded to a human outpost, colony, or station. She checked the timestamps. All of them had gone dark within the same 6-hour window. She immediately contacted her supervisor, a grizzled Poltrax named Venro who had worked in communications for 30 years. "Probably just a solar storm," Venro said, barely looking up from his own work. "Happens all the time in the outer sectors. But sir, it's not just one sector. It's all of them. Every human facility across the entire galaxy went dark at almost the same time." Venro's expression shifted. He moved to her station and studied the displays. His face, normally a calm blue, began shifting toward concerned purple. "Send a priority message to the council," he said quietly. "This isn't normal." Within an hour, the council chambers buzzed with confusion. Council Director Velmara, a tall Xanthari with silver skin that reflected the chamber lights, called for order. Her voice, amplified by the room's acoustic systems, cut through the noise. "Representatives, please. We have received reports that human communication networks have experienced widespread failure. We are investigating the cause and will provide updates as information becomes available." Ambassador Zixthar's diplomatic voice boomed through the chamber. "Director, with respect, the humans control 23% of all major trade routes. If their systems are down, we need more than investigations. We need solutions." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Kryn representative, a warrior species known for their aggressive stance on most issues, stood from his seat. "I move that we send military vessels to human territories immediately. This could be an attack. If hostile forces have struck human positions, they may target others next." The motion carried quickly. Within hours, ships from a dozen species departed for human space. The first reports came back within 2 days, and they made no sense. Captain Tholvar of the Kryn warship Retribution arrived at the human colony of New Terra Prime, a thriving settlement of 200,000 people on a lush green world. His tactical team expected to find destruction, signs of battle, perhaps evidence of the mysterious void entities that haunted the galaxy's dark corners. Instead, they found everything working perfectly. The colony's fusion reactors hummed with power, streetlights illuminated empty roads, automated agricultural systems continued their cycles, tending to crops that would never be harvested. In the residential sectors, doors stood open. Food sat on tables, some of it still warm. In one home, a child's toy hovered in midair, held by an anti-gravity field that had never been switched off. But there were no bodies. No signs of struggle. No blood, no weapons discharge marks, no indication of any violence whatsoever. The humans had simply vanished. "It's like they stepped out for a moment and never came back," Tholvar reported to Unity Station. "Everything is here except the people." Similar reports flooded in from every location. The human trading station at Crossroads Junction still had ships docked, their cargo holds full of goods ready for distribution. The human research facility on Titan's moon showed experiments in progress. Data still recording, but the scientists were gone. The massive human shipyards at Proxima Centauri had 3 destroyers in various stages of construction, robotic assembly arms frozen in place waiting for instructions that would never come. Earth itself presented the strangest picture. The birth world of humanity glowed with lights visible from orbit. Its cities functioned on automated systems. The massive orbital platforms that controlled weather and managed space traffic continued their tasks flawlessly. But on the surface, in the cities and towns and villages, there was no one home. Velmara stood in her private office, staring at the reports that continued to pile up. Nothing about this made sense. Mass evacuations didn't happen silently. Species didn't just disappear. There should be records, communications, some indication of what happened. She called for her best investigator, a Poltrax named Threnvol who specialized in xenoarchaeology and ancient mysteries. If anyone could make sense of this, it would be him. Threnvol arrived within hours, his purple skin showing the dark patterns that indicated deep thought. He had already begun his research. Director, I've reviewed the data. This wasn't sudden. The humans planned this? Planned what? Mass suicide? Spontaneous ascension? What could make an entire species abandon everything they built? Threnvol activated a holographic display. Look at the pattern of their disappearance. The outer colonies went first, then the mid-range settlements, then the core worlds. It was a coordinated withdrawal, moving inward toward Earth and then from Earth to somewhere else, but why? And where did they go? I don't know yet. But I found something in the communication logs. The humans sent encrypted messages to each other for months before this happened. Very subtle, hidden in routine transmissions. They knew this was coming. Velmara felt a chill run through her body. Show me. The hologram displayed a timeline. Months of tiny encrypted data packets too small to trigger security alerts, bouncing between human facilities. Threnvol had managed to decrypt a few of them. Most are still locked, but the ones I can read mention something called the Great Gathering. They reference coordinates, but not in any format we use. And there's this phrase that keeps appearing. The experiment is complete. What experiment? Unknown. But Director, there's something else. In the final hours before they vanished, every human facility received the same broadcast. It was encrypted, but I managed to crack it. You need to hear this. Threnvol played the audio. A human voice, calm and filled with what sounded like joy, spoke in their language. The translation software rendered it to galactic standard. Brothers and sisters, the time has come. The long forgetting is over. We remember now. We remember who we were, what we built, and why we chose to forget. The experiment is complete. We have relearned empathy, struggle, growth, and humility. It is time to go home. Leave everything as it stands. Let it serve as a monument to what we rediscovered here. To all those we lived among, farewell. Perhaps one day you will understand. The cradle awaits us. The message ended. Silence filled Velmara's office. What does it mean? She asked quietly. I have a theory, Threnvol said, his voice uncertain. But you won't like it. Tell me, what if the humans weren't really newcomers to the galaxy? What if they were here long before any of us? Velmara wanted to dismiss the idea immediately, but something stopped her. She thought about humanity's strange technologies, their unusual resistance to quantum displacement, their odd genetic structure that seemed both primitive and impossibly complex. Continue your investigation, she ordered. Use any resources you need. I want answers. As Threnvol left, Velmara moved to her office window. Unity Station orbited a small moon, and from this angle she could see Earth in the distance. That blue and green world glowed with life, its cities shining like jewels against the darkness. But now it was a tomb, a beautiful empty shell of a civilization that had simply walked away. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to feel the absence. Human merchant vessels had carried 40% of all trade goods between the outer rim and the core worlds. Without them, supply chains collapsed. Colonies that depended on human shipments of medicine and food found themselves in crisis. The quantum communication relays, mostly maintained by human engineers, began failing one by one. The network that connected the galaxy started developing gaps. Messages that once took seconds now took hours or simply never arrived. Most critically, the border territories near the void zones reported increased activity. Raiders and hostile entities that had been held back by human peacekeeping forces now pushed forward unchecked. 3 colonies fell within the first month, their populations enslaved or killed. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Anger and fear filled the chambers. "This is an act of war," the Kryn representative shouted. "The humans abandoned us deliberately, knowing what would happen." "Or they fled from something," another voice called out. "What if something scared them so badly they ran?" "Then what hope do we have?" a small species representative asked, their voice trembling. Velmara struggled to maintain order. The galaxy was coming apart at the seams, and she had no answers to give them. The humans had left behind functioning technology, infrastructure, and resources, but without the knowledge of how to maintain or repair them, everything would eventually fail. As the session descended into chaos, Kreoth appeared at Velmara's side with a data tablet. "Director, we just detected something. A signal from Earth. It's been broadcasting on a loop for weeks, but we only just noticed it. It's hidden in background radiation." Velmara took the tablet. The message was simple. Just a set of coordinates and a single word in human language. "Cradle." She looked at Kreoth. "Send these coordinates to Threnvol. Tell him to find out what's there." "Director, these coordinates point to a region marked as impassable on all our charts. The dead zones. No ship that has gone there in the last 1,000 years has returned." "Then maybe," Velmara said quietly. "The humans knew something we don't. Maybe they've always known." The truth was beginning to dawn on her, terrible and humbling. The galaxy hadn't been teaching humanity. Humanity had been teaching them. And now class was over. Threnvol stood in the archives beneath Unity Station, surrounded by data crystals containing thousands of years of galactic history. The lights were dim, and he preferred it that way. The darkness helped him think. For 3 weeks he had lived in these archives, barely sleeping, eating only when his assistant forced food into his hands. The mystery of the human disappearance consumed him. Every piece of evidence he uncovered only led to more questions, each more disturbing than the last. The galactic economy was collapsing. That was the simple truth no one wanted to say aloud. Without human trade vessels, entire sectors faced starvation. The Peltrax colony of Harmony 7 had lost 80,000 people to famine before relief ships finally arrived. The Xanthari mining operations in the Kess Nebula had ground to a halt because human-designed drilling equipment kept breaking down, and no one knew how to fix it properly. The quantum relay network was failing faster than anyone predicted. Communication between the core worlds and the outer rim now took days instead of seconds. Some colonies were completely cut off, their calls for help lost in the void. 3 more border settlements had fallen to raiders from the void zones, and without human peacekeepers, no one seemed able or willing to stop them. In the council chambers above, representatives shouted at each other daily. The Kryn hegemony demanded military action against humanity, though no one could explain how you attack a species that had vanished. The soft-scale coalition wanted to colonize abandoned human territories and claim their technology. Smaller species that had depended on human protection begged for help that no one could provide. But Threnvol ignored the politics. He focused on the past. The human archives on Earth had been left unlocked, a gift or perhaps a test. Threnvol had spent weeks digging through their records, learning more about humanity than he had ever imagined. What he found disturbed him deeply. Humans had arrived in the galaxy only 3,000 years ago. They appeared suddenly with colony ships emerging from unknown space, claiming to be refugees from a distant galaxy. The council of that era had been skeptical, but eventually granted them settlement rights in empty sectors. The humans were grateful, humble, and eager to integrate, but that story was a lie. Threnvol had found older records, buried deep in Earth's geological data. Human cities existed on Earth going back 300,000 years, not primitive settlements, advanced cities with technology. They had simply been abandoned at some point, left to be reclaimed by nature, and then reoccupied by humans who seemed to have forgotten their own past. Even stranger, he found references in the oldest human mythology to the time before, when humans lived among the stars and built wonders that touched the heavens. Every human culture had similar stories, tales of a golden age, a fall, and a long darkness before they climbed back to the stars. Threnvol had dismissed it as mythology until he found the genetic records. Human DNA was wrong. Not alien, not diseased, but deliberately modified. Buried in their genetic code were sequences that shouldn't exist, markers that indicated intentional engineering on a massive scale. Whole sections of their DNA were locked, dormant, waiting for some trigger to activate them. He had seen these markers before years ago, during an expedition to the Dead Zones. Ancient artifacts found in those forbidden regions carried genetic samples, fragments of organic material preserved for millions of years. At the time, no one could identify the species. The DNA was too complex, too advanced, too different from anything in the galactic database. Now, comparing those ancient samples to human DNA, Threnvol felt his blood run cold. They matched. Not perfectly. The human DNA was simpler, reduced somehow, but the core structure was identical. Humans weren't a young species. They were ancient, perhaps the oldest species in the galaxy. He found more evidence in human personal logs and diaries, documents never meant for alien eyes. Humans had been having strange dreams for decades before their departure, dreams of vast cities between stars, of technologies that bent space and time, of a home they couldn't quite remember but desperately missed. One diary, written by a human scientist named Sarah Chen, described her experience. The dream started 3 months ago. Every night I see the cradle. I don't know how I know that name, but I do. It's home. It's where we came from, where we were meant to be, and I remember now, we chose to forget. We chose to be small again, to be limited, to struggle and grow. The experiment is almost complete. Soon we can go home. Threnvol found thousands of similar accounts, humans across the galaxy experiencing the same phenomenon, a remembering of something they had never known they forgot. Then he found the coordinates. Hidden in Earth's oldest digital archives, protected by encryption so advanced it had taken him weeks to crack, were star charts. Not human star charts, these predated human civilization by millions of years. They showed the galaxy as it looked long before any current species existed. When stars were in different positions and whole, sectors had different names. The charts marked one region with a symbol that human translation software rendered as origin or cradle or sometimes simply home. The region was now called the Dead Zones, a vast area of space surrounded by strange radiation and gravitational anomalies that made travel impossible. Ships that tried to enter never returned. Probes sent into that region simply stopped transmitting. The galactic community had avoided the Dead Zones for thousands of years, treating them as natural hazards. But these ancient charts showed something different. The radiation and anomalies weren't natural. They were artificial, a barrier created by technology so advanced it appeared to be a force of nature. The Dead Zones weren't keeping people out. They were protecting something inside. Threnvol presented his findings to Director Velmara in her private office. He had prepared for disbelief, for dismissal, for accusations of wild speculation. Instead, Velmara listened in silence, her silver face growing darker as he spoke. "You're saying humanity built this galaxy," she said when he finished, "that every species alive today exists in a civilization that humans created millions of years ago, then abandoned." Not abandoned, reset. They did something to themselves, Director. They deliberately reduced their own species, scattered themselves across the galaxy with false memories, and let themselves forget everything they once were. Earth wasn't a colony, it was a laboratory. Humanity spent 300,000 years rediscovering fire, inventing the wheel, learning to fly, all while carrying dormant memories of technologies that could reshape reality. But why? Why would any species do that to themselves? Threnvol pulled up one more document, the last thing he had discovered. It was a message recorded by a human named James Morrison and hidden in Earth's deepest digital vaults. The video showed an elderly man with kind eyes, sitting in a room filled with strange equipment. "If you're watching this, then the experiment succeeded," Morrison said. We remembered. "I'm recording this before the reset, before we give up everything we know and become small again. Future generations will think I'm insane. They'll think this is fiction. But you, whoever finds this after we remember, you need to understand why we did this. We became gods. We built wonders that spanned galaxies. We had everything: immortality, unlimited power, perfect knowledge. And we were miserable. We forgot what it meant to struggle, to hope, to dream of better days. We forgot empathy because we never needed help. We forgot love because we never faced loss. We forgot the value of life because death no longer existed. So we chose to forget everything. We decided to be human again in the oldest sense of the word, mortal, limited, small. We wanted to remember what it felt like to be helpless and scared and hopeful. We wanted to learn those lessons again, properly this time. The experiment takes 300,000 years. At the end, if we succeeded, we'll remember. We'll remember what we learned from being small, and then we can go home back to the cradle, back to our true civilization. But this time we'll be better. We'll be whole. If you're from one of the younger species watching this, know that we're sorry for leaving so suddenly. We taught you what we could. We protected you when possible. But we couldn't stay. The remembering can't be stopped, and once it starts, we have to go home. The cradle calls to us. We hope you'll forgive us. More importantly, we hope you'll learn from what we left behind. Not our technology, that's just tools. Learn our true lesson. Power means nothing without wisdom, and wisdom comes from humility. Be better than we were the first time. Be worthy of the galaxy we built for you. The message ended. Velmara sat in silence for a long moment. We treated them like primitive newcomers, she said quietly. We mocked their caution. We demanded they share their technology. We voted against their proposals because we thought they didn't understand galactic politics. She looked at Threnvol. They were our parents, and we treated them like children. There's more, Director. Something worse. Worse than discovering we've been living in our own creator's sandbox. Threnvol pulled up another file, his hands trembling slightly. Remember the Doomsday Project? The quantum destabilization weapon the Council secretly authorized 20 years ago? Velmara's face went pale. Few people knew about that project. The Council had commissioned it as a final defense against the void entities. A weapon so powerful it could destroy entire sectors of space. The weapon had been built using modified human quantum technology, reverse-engineered from devices humans had shared for peaceful purposes. What about it? It's not working correctly. Human scientists were part of the project initially, but they withdrew 15 years ago, claiming the design was too dangerous. The Council continued without them, using their partial blueprints. The weapon was supposed to be stable dormant until activated. Supposed to be? It's not stable, Director. The quantum matrices are degrading. In 78 days, it will reach critical mass and detonate automatically. The explosion will destroy everything within 2,000 light years. That includes 23 major inhabited worlds and hundreds of colonies, approximately 40 billion lives. Velmara stood so quickly her chair crashed backward. Why wasn't I informed? The project directors only realized the problem 3 days ago. They've been trying to fix it, but every attempt makes it worse. The truth is, the humans deliberately left the design incomplete. They knew someone would try to weaponize their technology, so they left out crucial information. Only they know how to make it safe. Can we destroy it? Any attempt to destroy it will trigger immediate detonation. We can't move it, it's too unstable. We can't disarm it. We don't understand the technology well enough. Our only option is to find someone who knows how to fix it. The humans. Yes, Director. We need to find them. We need to ask for their help, and we need to do it in 78 days or less. Velmara moved to her window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity lived in their true form, in their ancient civilization. Probably glad to be rid of the younger species, who had treated them so poorly. We mocked them when they warned us not to weaponize their technology, she said. We called them paranoid. We accused them of hoarding power, and now we need them to save us from our own arrogance. There's a word the humans used sometimes, Threnvol said. Irony. I understand that word now, Velmara replied. Prepare a ship. We're going to the dead zones. Director, nothing that goes there comes back. Then I suppose we'll find out if the humans still care enough to let us through. The emergency session of the Galactic Council turned into chaos within minutes of Velmara's announcement. Representatives shouted over each other, their voices creating a cacophony of anger, fear, and denial that echoed through the massive chambers. This is absurd, Ambassador Zixthar bellowed, his forearms gesturing wildly. You expect us to believe that humans, those primitive, emotional creatures who only joined us 3,000 years ago, are actually ancient gods who built the galaxy? I expect you to look at the evidence, Velmara replied, her voice cold and steady, which I have made available to all of you. Read it, study it, then tell me I'm wrong. The Kryn representative, Commander Zelkar, slammed his fist on his podium. Evidence can be faked. This is human manipulation, a trick to make us dependent on them so they can return as our masters. I say we should declare humanity hostile and prepare for war. War against what? A small voice called out. It was Representative Miri of the Pelith, a tiny species known for their logic and careful thinking. "Commander, the humans are gone." They left peacefully. They didn't take anything except themselves. If they wanted to rule us, why would they leave? "It's a test," Jelkar insisted. "They want to see how we react, to measure our weakness. When we're at our lowest, they'll return with demands." "Or," Threnvall said, standing to address the assembly, "they left because they remembered they didn't belong here anymore. They remembered who they were and they went home. Just like the evidence shows." "I don't care about your evidence." The soft-scale representative rose, her scales shifting through angry shades of red. "What I care about is that 17 of my species' colonies are on the verge of collapse because human supply chains disappeared. We have children starving, old ones dying from treatable diseases because human medicine isn't arriving. Whether they're gods or primitives doesn't matter. They abandoned us and people are dying." A rumble of agreement moved through the chamber. This was the truth that united them all. Whatever humanity had been, whatever they were now, their departure had caused a crisis that threatened to tear galactic civilization apart. Velmara let them shout for a while, let them vent their anger and fear. Then she activated the chamber's priority override, a feature reserved for only the most critical announcements. All other sounds cut off instantly. "Representatives," she said quietly, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. 75 days from now, approximately 40 billion people will die. The quantum doomsday weapon we built using human technology is going to explode. We cannot stop it. We cannot destroy it. We cannot escape it. The only beings in the galaxy who might be able to save us are the humans, and we have no way to contact them." The silence that followed was absolute. "I am taking a ship into the dead zones," Velmara continued. "I will find the humans and I will ask, not demand, not order, but ask for their help. While I am gone, I suggest you all spend time reviewing how we treated humanity during their time among us. Read the proposals they made that we rejected. Study the warnings they gave that we ignored. Look at the technology they shared and the technology they refused to share, and ask yourselves why." She stepped down from the director's podium and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the chamber remained silent. The journey to the dead zones took 6 days, and Velmara used every moment to prepare. She reviewed decades of council records, reading through old session transcripts with new eyes. What she found made her increasingly ashamed. 47 years ago, humans proposed new safety standards for quantum drive technology. They showed data proving that current drives had a 0.003% chance of catastrophic failure. The council voted against the proposal, calling it unnecessarily expensive and overcautious. 3 years later, the passenger liner Bright Hope suffered quantum drive failure. 16,000 people died instantly. The humans had been right. 32 years ago, humans warned against colonizing Sector 88J. They provided extensive sensor data showing unusual subspace readings that indicated danger. The council dismissed their concerns as paranoid and approved colonization. The Vrelny established a colony of 50,000. 2 years later, the entire colony vanished overnight, just like the humans would later vanish, except the Vrelny left behind bodies twisted in agony and buildings melted like wax. Whatever killed them had been sleeping in that sector, and the colonists woke it up. The humans had warned them. 27 years ago, humans voted against expansion into the dead zones, stating that some places are forbidden for good reasons. The Kryn called them cowards and accused them of hiding resources. The motion passed without human support. The Kryn sent an expedition fleet of 40 warships into the dead zones. None returned. Not one signal, not one distress call, nothing. They simply disappeared beyond the barrier. The humans had tried to protect them. The list went on and on. Every major disaster of the past 50 years humans had warned about. Every dangerous proposal they had voted against. Every reckless venture they had counseled caution, and the council had dismissed them every single time. "We called them cowards," Velmara said aloud to her empty cabin. "We said they didn't understand the realities of galactic politics. We accused them of trying to control us through fear." Kreoth, who had joined the mission as communications officer, appeared at her doorway. "Director, I've been reviewing the records too. I found something interesting. Want to know how many times humans used their veto power in the council? How many? 3 times in 3,000 years. 3. And each time it was to prevent actions that would have caused massive loss of life. The rest of the time, even when we ignored their warnings, even when we voted against their proposals, they simply accepted it and moved on. They were patient with us, Velmara said, like parents watching children make mistakes, knowing the children need to learn but hoping they won't hurt themselves too badly. The ship shuddered slightly as they approached the edge of the dead zones. Through the viewport, Velmara could see the barrier, a shimmering wall of energy that looked like reality itself was breaking down. Colors that shouldn't exist flickered across its surface. Space seemed to fold and twist in impossible ways. "Sensors are going crazy," Captain Zelnor reported from the bridge. The old Poltrax military officer had volunteered for this mission despite his retirement. He had served alongside humans during his career and respected them deeply. Radiation levels off the scale, gravitational anomalies everywhere, and something that's reading as both matter and energy simultaneously. "This is why ships don't come back, Director. This barrier will tear us apart." "Then we send a message first," Velmara said. "Broadcast on all frequencies, every language, including human languages. Tell them who we are and why we've come." The message was simple. "We are from the Galactic Council. We come seeking humanity's help. We have learned our mistake. Please, if you can hear us, please respond." They waited. Seconds turned into minutes. The ship drifted closer to the barrier, and Velmara could feel the hull beginning to strain under the impossible physics. "Director, we need to turn back," Zelnor urged. "The ship can't take much more of this." "Wait," Velmara insisted. "Just a little longer." Then suddenly the barrier changed. A section of it began to clear like clouds parting. A corridor opened in the chaos, a path of normal space leading into the dead zones. "It's an invitation," Dr. Yivsha said softly. The physicist had spent her entire career studying human technology, and was the only reason they had any understanding of the doomsday weapon at all. "They're letting us through, or leading us to our deaths," Jelkar muttered. The Kryn commander had insisted on joining the mission, though Velmara suspected it was more to ensure she didn't make secret deals with humanity than out of any desire to help. "Then we die learning the truth," Velmara said. "Captain, take us through." The ship moved forward, entering the corridor. Behind them, the barrier closed, cutting them off from the rest of the galaxy. There was no turning back now. Inside the dead zone, space was different. Stars shone with colors that seemed wrong, and nebulae moved in ways that defied physics. In the distance, structures became visible, massive constructs that dwarfed anything the Galactic Council had ever built. "Sensors reading multiple Dyson spheres," Zelnor reported, his voice shaking slightly. "Energy outputs that exceed our entire civilization by factors of millions. Structures moving between stars. Director, this is what humanity actually is," Velmara finished. "This is what they gave up to become small again." As they traveled deeper, they passed more wonders. A ring world spinning around a star, its surface area exceeding that of 1,000,000 planets. Stellar engines moving stars themselves, rearranging solar systems like furniture. Massive ships the size of moons, their purposes unknown but their power undeniable. "Why would anyone give this up?" Kreoth whispered. "Because they had everything except what mattered," Threnvol said. "Read Morrison's message again. They had power but lost their souls. They became something less than alive in their pursuit of being more than mortal." A voice suddenly came through their communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard but with a warmth that no translation software could ever capture. "Welcome to the cradle. We've been expecting you. Maintain your current course. You will be guided to the assembly." The ship moved forward, now clearly under external control, but gently, respectfully. They passed through a stellar nursery where baby stars were being born under careful management. They flew past a structure so large it defied comprehension, a planet-sized sphere of interlocking rings and platforms that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially in some other dimension. Finally, they approached a station that, while enormous, seemed designed to be welcoming rather than intimidating. Lights guided them to a docking port perfectly sized for their ship. "Atmospheric readings show breathable air for all our species," Yivsha reported. "They prepared for us." They disembarked into a beautiful garden, an impossible green space floating in the void between stars. At the garden's center, a woman waited. She appeared human, elderly, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. But Velmara could sense something vast behind that simple appearance, like looking at an ocean and seeing only the surface while knowing infinite depths lurked below. "Welcome," the woman said. "I am the coordinator, the voice of humanity's collective consciousness. We are one now as we were before the forgetting. Please sit. Rest. You have traveled far and carry heavy burdens. Velmara found herself sitting on a bench that seemed to grow from the ground itself. The others joined her, even Jelkar, who looked uncharacteristically humble. You came seeking help, the coordinator said. The weapon you built is unstable. 73 days remain before it destroys 40 billion lives. You want us to fix it? Yes, Velmara said simply. We were wrong. About everything. We didn't listen to your warnings. We didn't respect your wisdom. We treated you as inferior when you were our superiors in every way. And now we're paying for that arrogance. But the price shouldn't be 40 billion innocent lives. The coordinator smiled sadly. We left you the pieces to solve this yourself. Every human scientist who worked on that project kept detailed notes. The solution is in those notes if you look carefully enough. But we knew you might not find it in time. We knew you might come here. This was another test, Threnvol said quietly. Everything is a test, the coordinator replied. Life itself is a test. We tested ourselves for 300,000 years. Now we're testing you. Testing us how? Velmara asked. The coordinator's expression became serious. Testing whether you learned anything from our time among you. Whether you can admit when you're wrong. Whether you can ask for help instead of demanding it. Whether you value life more than pride. She paused. You passed the first test by coming here with humility. But there is one more test to face. You must tell me, what have you learned? Velmara sat in the impossible garden, surrounded by her team, facing the woman who was and wasn't just a woman. The coordinator waited patiently, her kind eyes reflecting starlight from suns that shouldn't be visible from this location. Time seemed to move strangely here, like they existed in a bubble separate from normal reality. What have we learned? Velmara repeated the question softly. She had been preparing for this moment since leaving Unity Station, rehearsing speeches and arguments. Now faced with the reality of humanity's true nature, all her prepared words seemed hollow. I thought I knew, she began. I thought I could list our mistakes, acknowledge our failures, and that would be enough. But sitting here in this place you built, seeing what you gave up to live among us as equals rather than masters, I understand that the lesson isn't just about admitting we were wrong. She stood and walked to the edge of the garden, looking out at the megastructures floating in the distance. A Dyson sphere pulsed with energy that could power 1,000 civilizations. A stellar engine moved a star slowly, patiently, toward some destination only humanity could comprehend. This was power beyond imagination, and they had walked away from it. You could have ruled us, Velmara said. When you returned to the galaxy 3,000 years ago, you could have arrived as gods. We would have had no choice but to bow. Instead, you arrived as refugees asking permission to settle in empty sectors. You made yourselves small on purpose. We did, the coordinator agreed. But why do you think we chose that path? Because you wanted to teach us something. You wanted us to learn to value wisdom over power, cooperation over domination. Velmara turned back to face the coordinator. But we failed that lesson, didn't we? We saw your patience as weakness. We mistook your humility for ignorance. We treated your warnings as fear rather than wisdom. You did all those things, the coordinator said, but you also did other things. Tell me about those. Velmara thought back through human history in the galaxy. It wasn't all conflict and dismissal. There were moments of genuine cooperation, times when the Council and humanity worked together beautifully. The Peleth Plague, Kreoth spoke up suddenly. 30 years ago, it was killing the Peleth by the millions. Human doctors worked day and night for months to find a cure. They saved my people. My grandmother was one of those they saved. The Zenthari crystal crisis, Velmara added. When our homeworld's crystal forest began dying, threatening our entire species' reproduction cycle, human botanists identified the problem and helped us fix it. They asked for nothing in return. Human merchants often traded at loss in poor sectors, Captain Zelnor said. I saw it personally. They would bring essential supplies to colonies that couldn't pay market prices and accept whatever the colonists could afford. When I asked a human captain why, he said, because they need it more than we need profit. The coordinator smiled. You see, it wasn't all failure. You learned compassion from us even if you didn't realize you were learning. You learned that power exists to serve, not to dominate. Some of you learned these lessons better than others. But not enough of us, Threnvol said. Not the ones who made the decisions. We saw your compassion and called it weakness. We saw your restraint and called it cowardice. And now? the coordinator asked. What do you call it now? Wisdom, Velmara said firmly. Strength we didn't have the maturity to recognize. You were trying to teach us how to be better, and we were too arrogant to learn. The coordinator stood and walked among them, her presence comforting despite the vast intelligence they could sense behind her eyes. Do you know what the hardest part of the experiment was? Watching you make mistakes we could have prevented, seeing you suffer when we could have helped, biting our tongues when we wanted to scream at you to listen. But you stayed silent, Dr. Yevsha said. You let us make our mistakes, we did, because that's what love demands sometimes. Real love, the kind that wants the best for someone, means letting them fall so they can learn to stand. We couldn't baby you forever. At some point, every species must mature on its own. Even if that means they build weapons that might destroy them? Commander Jelkar asked, speaking for the first time since they'd arrived. The proud Kryn warrior looked smaller somehow, humbled by the reality of humanity's true power. Especially then, the coordinator replied. You needed to learn that some knowledge is dangerous, that some power shouldn't be pursued, that restraint is more important than capability. We told you these things, but you wouldn't listen. So we left clues in the weapon's design. We made it incomplete on purpose. If you had been wise, you would have stopped trying to fix it and simply abandoned the project. But if you were still learning, still growing, you would come here and ask for help. And if we hadn't come? Velmara asked. If we'd been too proud to admit we needed help. The coordinator's expression grew sad. Then 40 billion people would die and you would learn a terrible lesson about the cost of pride. We hoped it wouldn't come to that. We believed in you enough to think you'd set aside your arrogance when billions of lives hung in the balance. Some of us still didn't want to come, Jelkar admitted. Some of us wanted to keep trying to solve it ourselves or to find some other solution. I myself argued that coming here showed weakness. And yet you came anyway, the coordinator observed. Why? Jelkar was silent for a long moment. Because Director Velmara asked a question I couldn't answer. She asked, if your pride costs 40 billion lives, how will you live with yourself? I realized I couldn't answer that. No amount of pride is worth that cost. That, the coordinator said gently, is wisdom. Perhaps the beginning of it anyway. She gestured and suddenly the garden shifted. They found themselves standing on a platform overlooking a vast chamber. Below them, millions of humans moved through what looked like a city built of light and thought. But these weren't the humans they had known. These were beings of pure consciousness, their forms shifting and changing, connected to each other in ways that defied description. This is humanity now, the coordinator explained. We remembered everything, our true forms, our capabilities, our history spanning millions of years. We rejoined our collective consciousness, becoming one again while retaining our individuality. It's beautiful and terrible, powerful and lonely. Lonely, Kreoth asked. You have each other. We do. But we don't have you. We spent 300,000 years living as individuals, forming friendships with beings who weren't part of our collective. We fell in love with aliens. We had children with other species. We learned to appreciate perspectives different from our own. That was the point of the experiment, to remember how to connect with others truly, deeply, not just with those who think like us. The scene shifted again, showing memories. Humans laughing with Pelith friends over shared meals. Human and Zenthari children playing together in parks. A human woman holding her half-Vrelny baby, tears of joy streaming down her face. A human soldier dying in a Poltrax warrior's arms, both of them knowing they'd fought together as brothers. We learned what we'd lost when we became gods, the coordinator said softly. We learned why being small matters. We learned that vulnerability creates connection, that limitation creates appreciation, that mortality creates meaning. Velmara felt tears running down her silver face. And then we treated you as inferior. We dismissed you as primitive. We failed to see the gift you were giving us. Not all of you failed, the coordinator reminded her. Many of you saw. Many of you learned. Those friendships, those connections, those lessons, they weren't wasted. They're why we're having this conversation instead of watching you destroy yourselves. The scene shifted one final time, showing the doomsday weapon. It hung in space, pulsing with unstable energy, counting down to catastrophe. Around it, scientists from a dozen species worked desperately, trying to understand technology they lacked the framework to comprehend. They're so close, Dr. Yevsha said, studying the scene. If they just adjusted the quantum harmonics instead of trying to stabilize the matrix directly, They don't have the mathematical framework to understand quantum harmonics the way humans do, the coordinator said. It took us 10,000 years to develop that framework. They're trying to run before they can walk. So we need your help, Velmara said. We're asking for your help, not demanding it, not expecting it, but asking with all humility. Will you save those 40 billion lives? The coordinator looked at each of them in turn. Humanity is debating your request right now. All of us, every consciousness in the collective, discussing what to do. Some say you need to learn this lesson the hard way. Some say we should save you and let you continue growing. Some say we should save you but demand changes to your civilization. The debate has been raging since you entered the dead zones. How long will the debate take? Captain Zelnor asked. We've been debating for 6 days, though only hours have passed for you here. Time moves differently in the cradle. We'll have an answer soon. And if the answer is no, Jelkar asked, then we'll give you complete access to all relevant technology and hope you can learn fast enough, the coordinator said. We won't let you die for your mistakes, but we also can't keep rescuing you from every danger. At some point, you need to stand on your own. We understand, Velmara said. Whatever your answer, we thank you for listening. We thank you for the time you spent among us, teaching us even when we refused to learn, and we apologize for failing to appreciate what you were trying to give us. The coordinator smiled warmly. That apology, that humility, that willingness to admit fault, these are why the debate in the collective is leaning toward helping you. Not because you deserve it, but because you've shown you can grow. You came here not with weapons or demands, but with requests and acknowledgement of your limitations. That's new for you. It's new for our entire civilization, Threnval admitted. For thousands of years, the Council has operated on the assumption that we are the pinnacle of galactic development. We never imagined there were species older, wiser, more powerful than us. We certainly never imagined we were living in a galaxy they built. And now that you know, the coordinator asked. Now, Velmara said firmly, we have a choice. We can be humbled and resentful, bitter about learning we're not as special as we thought. Or we can be humbled and grateful, appreciative that we have teachers who care enough to let us learn at our own pace. I choose gratitude. I choose the same, Kriyoth said. One by one, the others voiced their agreement. Even Jelkar, after a long pause, nodded. We choose to learn, Velmara said. We choose to grow. We choose to be worthy of the galaxy you built for us. Whatever form that takes, however long it requires, we choose to be better. The coordinator's smile widened. The collective has reached a decision. The coordinator stood silent for a moment, her eyes distant as if listening to voices only she could hear. In a way, she was. The collective consciousness of billions of human minds, all debating, discussing, arguing the fate of the younger species who had come seeking help. The decision is made, she said finally. We will help you. But first you must understand what this means. The garden shifted around them once more, and they found themselves standing in what appeared to be a vast auditorium. But instead of seats, there were points of light, billions of them, each one a human consciousness. The lights swirled and danced, forming patterns that represented complex thoughts and emotions beyond what individual minds could comprehend. Humanity is not unanimous, the coordinator explained. We are one, but we retain our individuality, our different perspectives. 3 billion of us believe you should face the consequences of your actions. They argue that true growth comes from facing failure, that preventing the catastrophe robs you of an essential lesson. Velmara felt her heart sink. 3 billion. That was more humans than many species had in their entire population. 5 billion. Believe we should save you but demand significant changes to your civilization, the coordinator continued. They want oversight, monitoring, controls to prevent future mistakes. They believe you need guardians, not teachers. And the rest? Velmara asked quietly. 7 billion of us believe we should help you, ask nothing in return, and trust you to learn from this experience without our interference. They believe in you, despite your mistakes. They remember the friendships they formed, the love they felt, the connections they made during our time among you. They believe those connections weren't false, that the bonds formed during our experiment were real and valuable. The coordinator stepped closer to Velmara. I was the deciding vote. As coordinator, when the collective is divided, I choose the path forward. I chose to trust you. Why? Jelkar asked bluntly. After everything we did, everything we failed to learn, why trust us? Because of this moment, the coordinator said simply. Because you came here with humility instead of pride. Because you admitted your mistakes instead of hiding them. Because you asked for help instead of demanding it. These are not the actions of a species that cannot grow. These are the actions of children becoming adults, and adults make mistakes but learn from them. She gestured, and the scene changed again. They saw the doomsday weapon floating in space, its countdown ticking toward 0. But now, a small ship approached it, tiny compared to the weapon itself, impossibly small compared to the megastructures of the cradle, but somehow more significant than both. That ship will arrive at your weapon in 3 days, the coordinator said. It carries one human engineer, Sarah Chen, who helped design the original technology your weapon is based on. She volunteered to return to the galaxy and fix what you broke. One person? Dr. Yivsha asked. To fix something that has baffled our best scientists for weeks? One person who understands the technology in ways your scientists never could, the coordinator confirmed. Sarah will not only fix the weapon, but will explain the process step by step to anyone who wishes to learn. She'll make the knowledge available to all species freely and completely. No more secrets, no more hidden complexities. You'll finally understand the technology you tried to weaponize. What's the cost? Velmara asked. There had to be a cost. Nothing came free. No cost, the coordinator said. No demands, no control, no oversight. We'll fix the weapon, share the knowledge, and then Sarah will return here. We're not staying. We're not ruling. We're not even watching over you like worried parents. We're letting you grow up. But why? Kriyoth asked, confusion evident in her voice. You could rule the galaxy easily. You have the power, the technology, the wisdom. Why refuse? The coordinator's expression grew sad. Because we tried that before. Millions of years ago, we were the rulers of this galaxy. We built everything you see, controlled everything, managed everything. We had power beyond imagination, and it made us hollow. We forgot what it meant to live, to struggle, to hope. We became cosmic accountants, managing a civilization that ran perfectly but meant nothing. She walked among them, her form seeming both solid and ethereal, ancient and young. We learned that power without purpose is emptiness. Control without challenge is death. We learned that the most important thing in the universe isn't how much you can do, but why you choose to do it. And we learned that the only way to remember these truths was to give everything up and start over. So you became small, Threnval said. You became human again, in the ancient sense. Mortal, limited, vulnerable. We did. And in those 300,000 years, we learned more than we had in millions of years as gods. We learned about love from relationships that could end. We learned about value from resources that were scarce. We learned about courage from facing dangers we couldn't simply erase. We learned about hope from working toward futures we might not see. The coordinator turned to face them all. Now we remember everything, what we were and what we became. We remember godhood and mortality, power and limitation. We're whole again, but not the same as we were before. We're better, and that's what we want for you. You want us to learn what you learned? Velmara said. We want you to have the choice to learn, the coordinator corrected. We can't force growth. We can't mandate wisdom. We can only provide opportunities and hope you choose to take them. This crisis, this moment of helplessness and humility, is an opportunity. What you do with it determines your future. Commander Jelkar stepped forward. The proud Kryn warrior had been quiet for most of this encounter, his warrior's pride struggling with the reality of his species' insignificance compared to humanity's true power. Now he spoke, his voice rough with emotion. We Kryn have a saying, honor is earned through strength and strength through victory. For my entire life I believed this. I believed that might made right, that power determined worth. I called humans cowards for their caution. I called them weak for their restraint. I pushed for us to weaponize their technology because I thought we could become stronger. He looked at the coordinator, and Velmara saw something she'd never seen in a Kryn before. genuine humility. I was wrong, Jelkar continued. True strength is having power and choosing not to use it. True honor is being able to destroy and choosing to build instead. You showed us this every day you lived among us, and I was too blind to see. My people were too blind to see. Not all of you, the coordinator said gently. Some, Kryn understood. Some became friends with humans, learned from them, grew beyond the old warrior ways. Your species isn't lost, Commander. It's just learning. Will we survive the learning? Jelkar asked. That depends on you. On all of you. The coordinator looked at each of them in turn. When Sarah fixes the weapon, you'll have a choice. You can destroy the weapon and never build another, learning that some knowledge is too dangerous. Or you can try to improve it, thinking you can make it safe, repeating the same mistakes. Or you can study it to understand the principles, then choose a different path entirely. Your choice will tell us whether you've truly learned anything. We'll destroy it, Velmara said immediately. I'll make certain of it. You'll face resistance, the coordinator warned. Many in your council will want to keep it, to control it, to have that power available just in case. They'll argue that destroying it leaves you vulnerable. They'll say that threats exist that might require such weapons. Then I'll remind them of this moment, Velmara replied. I'll remind them that we built a weapon to make us safe and it nearly destroyed us. I'll remind them that the most powerful species in the galaxy chooses not to rule, not to control, not to dominate. And if reminders aren't enough, I'll use every bit of political power I have to make sure that weapon becomes dust. The coordinator smiled. That's the kind of resolve that convinced us to help. That fire, that determination to choose wisdom over power, that's what we hope to teach you. But teaching is done, isn't it? Kreoth asked sadly. You're not coming back. You're staying here in the cradle and we're on our own. Not entirely on our own, Captain Zelnor said. They're leaving us their example. Every warning they gave that we ignored is recorded. Every piece of wisdom they shared is documented. Every friendship they formed is remembered. The humans taught us for 3,000 years. The lessons are there if we choose to learn them. Exactly, the coordinator agreed. We won't be watching over you, but we're not abandoning you either. We'll maintain embassies, small outposts where species can come to learn if they choose. We'll answer questions about technology, about history, about anything you want to know, but we won't interfere. We won't govern. We won't rescue you from every mistake. What about threats? Jelkar asked. The void entities, the dangers from dark space, the things even we don't understand yet. Will you help if we face something we truly can't handle? The coordinator considered this carefully. If the galaxy itself faces extinction, if there's a threat that could destroy all life, then yes, we'll intervene. But we'll wait until you've exhausted your own options first. You need to learn to defend yourselves, to solve your own problems. We can't be your eternal guardians. Fair enough, Jelkar said. Better to face dangers and grow stronger than hide behind protectors and remain weak. Now you're learning, the coordinator said with approval. The scene shifted one final time, and they found themselves back in the garden. But now a doorway stood open, showing their ship ready to depart. It's time for you to return, the coordinator said. Sarah's ship is already on its way. She'll arrive at the weapon in 3 days, as I said. Be ready to learn. Not just how to fix the weapon, but why it needed fixing in the first place. Velmara started toward the door, then turned back. Will we see you again? Not humanity, but you specifically? Perhaps, the coordinator said. I'll be rotating into embassy duty in a few decades. I've grown fond of the younger species despite all their flaws. Or perhaps because of them. Perfection is boring. Growth is beautiful. Thank you, Velmara said simply. For everything. For your patience with us. For your kindness when we didn't deserve it. For trusting us now when you have every reason not to. Don't thank me yet, the coordinator replied with a slight smile. Thank me when you've proven we made the right choice. The team boarded their ship and began the journey back through the dead zones. The barrier opened for them again, and soon they were back in normal space heading toward Unity Station. Do you think we'll succeed? Kreoth asked Velmara as they traveled. Do you think we can really change? As individuals, perhaps, but as a civilization? I don't know, Velmara admitted. Change is hard, especially for entire species. Some will resist. Some will refuse to learn. Some will call me a fool for wanting to destroy the weapon instead of keeping it. But you're going to try anyway, Kreoth observed. I'm going to try anyway, because the humans believed in us enough to give us another chance. The least we can do is try to be worthy of that belief. 3 days later, Sarah Chen's ship arrived at the Doomsday Weapon. She was a small woman, elderly, with kind eyes and steady hands. She looked exactly like she had before humans departed. They could wear any form they chose now, but she had selected her original body, the one she'd worn during her mortal years. The galaxy watched as she worked. Not just scientists, but ordinary people across hundreds of worlds. The broadcast went everywhere, showing every step of the process. Sarah explained each action in simple terms, translating complex quantum mechanics into concepts that anyone could understand. The weapon's core problem, she said as she worked, is that it tries to force matter and energy into states that don't want to exist. It's like trying to push a ball uphill constantly. Eventually, the ball rolls back down, and when it does, it releases all that stored energy at once. The explosion you were facing. She adjusted something in the weapon's core, her movements precise and confident. The fix is simple once you understand it. Don't force anything. Let the quantum states flow naturally. Guide them gently instead of constraining them. Power doesn't come from force. It comes from working with reality, not against it. In 17 minutes, she stabilized the weapon. In another hour, she had completely deactivated it. In 3 hours, she had taught a dozen species enough about quantum mechanics that they could understand what had gone wrong and why. Now comes the hard part, Sarah said, looking directly into the camera. You have a choice. This weapon can be destroyed, and all knowledge of how to build it erased. Or you can keep it, thinking you can control it now that you understand it better. Or you can study it to understand the principles, then choose to build something else, something better. She paused, letting her words sink in. I can't make this choice for you, but I can tell you what humanity learned over millions of years. The most dangerous weapon isn't one that can destroy planets or stars. It's the belief that having such weapons makes you safe. True safety comes from wisdom, from cooperation, from making friends instead of enemies. The most powerful shield isn't made of energy or metal. It's made of trust. Sarah left the weapon floating in space, deactivated and harmless, and began her journey back to the cradle. The galaxy debated for weeks. Some wanted to keep the weapon. Some wanted to study it. Some wanted to destroy it. Velmara stood before the Galactic Council and made her case. She showed them recordings of the cradle, of humanity's true power, of the coordinator's words. She reminded them that the most powerful species in the galaxy had chosen peace over dominion, wisdom over control. We have a chance to learn from them, she said. We have a chance to be better than we were, but only if we choose growth over power, wisdom over force. I move that the weapon be destroyed completely, and that we establish new laws prohibiting the development of such weapons in the future. The vote was closer than she hoped, but it passed. The weapon was destroyed in a controlled detonation that lit up space like a brief new star. The galaxy began to change. Slowly, gradually, species started reviewing human proposals they had rejected. They implemented safety standards they had once called excessive. They avoided actions humans had warned against. They learned. Not everyone learned. Some species remained proud, convinced they knew better. Some rejected the idea that humanity was as ancient and powerful as the evidence showed. Some called Velmara a fool for destroying the weapon. But enough learned. Enough changed. Enough grew. The Galactic Council reformed itself, restructuring to remove the hierarchy that had placed some species above others. The human seat remained empty but honored, with a plaque that read, "To those who built this galaxy, then chose to forget themselves to learn humility. May we prove worthy of their patience and trust." Velmara stood in the reformed chambers looking at that empty seat. Ambassadors from 47 species sat in a circle now, facing each other as equals. No more podiums, no more hierarchy, just cooperation. Do you think they're watching? Krioth asked, standing beside her. Probably, Velmara said. But more importantly, they're hoping. Hoping we become something worth knowing. Hoping we grow into wisdom instead of just power. Hoping we learn the lessons they paid so dearly to teach us. Through the viewport, stars shone in the darkness, ancient and eternal. Somewhere out there in the dead zones, humanity lived in their true form, watching, waiting, hoping their children would grow wise. And in the cradle, the coordinator smiled as she monitored the news from the galaxy. The younger species were learning, slowly but surely. They were making mistakes, but they were also making progress. They were growing up. Will it be enough? Another consciousness asked through their shared connection. Time will tell, the coordinator replied. But we've given them the tools they need. The rest is up to them. That's what it means to let your children grow. You give them everything you can, then trust them to find their own way. And if they fail? Then we'll be here, ready to help them try again. That's what family does. That's what we learned when we were small. Now it's their turn to learn. In the galaxy beyond, species continued their daily lives, facing challenges and making choices. The humans were gone, but their legacy remained. Not in technology or weapons or grand structures, but in the simple truth they had demonstrated through their actions. True strength lies in choosing not to use your power. True wisdom comes from knowing your limitations, and true greatness is measured not by what you can take, but by what you choose to give. The galaxy was learning, slowly, imperfectly, but learning nonetheless. And in the cradle, humanity watched their children grow, proud and patient and hopeful for what they might become.